and we're undertaking processes to try and obtain that and do that. I think we're thinking about that now and what kinds of things.
So, there's several things that we're looking at. We are looking at marketing. We're looking at trying to go to a year-round schedule so that students can plan a little bit better. We're trying to make a push for those students that have, a higher GPA to see if they can take one more class. In order to increase the number of units that they are taking and be successful. We are looking at the fill rates in classes and trying to encourage faculty to help increase their fill rates. So there's various things that we're looking at. A lot of what we're doing with our business process analysis is an effort to streamline the student's ability to get into our college and to move through our college. So, we're very hopeful that once we've completed the design thinking as well as the business process analysis and review, that we will encourage more students to come in and stay here and work through it. Some of the other things that we're working on is the completion agenda to try to help students, looking at remediation, looking at structured pathways, looking at targeted populations. So there's various things that we have ongoing, and some of them have just gotten underway, but we're hoping that will help moving into the future.
Also, if I can add to that response, Board President Otto, I mean, the key here is there is really no point growing the college if we're going to become less efficient.
Right.
We may be generating more revenue, but we'd also be spending more money to generate that revenue. And quite frankly, that amount of energy distracts from the core mission of trying to improve our current students' experience at Long Beach City College. So we're not going to sacrifice quality and improving completion for the sake of growing the college. And I think this is a sentiment that's shared by the governor, and that the Department of Finance is looking at ways to change the current incentives. Until then, though, we're going to continue to push forward. If we can be more efficient, if we can help students take more courses where it's appropriate, then we can increase the FTS that way. But to go out and poach students from other districts really wouldn't make sense for us right now, and it would just distract from our core mission.
Yeah, and one of my concerns is, and it's not because I think this is going to happen, but when we talk about college redesign, when we talk about guided pathways and a different way of looking at things, everything I've read and looked at says it's going to be a problem for a while until it works itself through, and the formula. And I heard you say until the legislature changes the funding formula that could be a problem for us, and so I want to be, if not clear, at least informed about how it is that we're going about this, because I know that it's precarious. You're trying to increase a system which basically says, okay, 3 weeks into the semester, we know how much money we're going to pay you, instead of, okay, at the end of the semester, this is how much better we did in terms of completion. And so I get it. I think we're working hard at this, but it's complicated.
May I also ask a question?
Sure.
Was there a reason we are projecting more versus the tentative budget? Because I noticed in the tentative budget we were showing 1.22 million, and you mentioned that 1.7 million is a stretch. What am I missing here? And I think we did show an unfunded amount of 126 FTEs in the tentative budget. So what's the delta for, and why are we projecting a higher value versus the tentative?
We're projecting a higher value because the Board of Governors approved the new growth formula and are providing us with 1.7%. And so since the Chancellor's Office has provided us with the funding as of July, assuming that we're going to grow that, that's what we put into our budget.
So, and is there a reason why we're not going to go with the previous projected FTES of 20,555? I know you explained that we're striving, but wouldn't it be more conservative to aim for a little less, and if we have more, even better? But it just
the way funding works in California, it's a complicated dance. There is money on the table through growth today in this budget. We have every expectation that we're going to meet that growth target. Now, what happens over time is growth will begin to decrease as the budget becomes constrained in the state. And so it is, at this point, our opinion that the best way to capture as much money as we can is to try and reach that growth target. And we have enough confidence that we can reach that growth target. Now, having said that, we cannot grow much more beyond this. And we probably will not be funded to grow much more beyond this. The reason we have a 1.7 growth rate is because this particular area of the county is not going to experience much growth. And really for all of LA County, it's just a matter of demographics, particularly in Long Beach, given the demographics of our K-12 district shrinking. So the thinking is, and the strategy is, that we're going to capture as much money as is available to us that we can capture, and then work with the Board of Governors, with the legislature, with the Department of Finance to change the growth formula over time to give us greater advantage with the population that we serve. And the population that we serve is low income. It's low percentage of adults with degree attainment. So those are the kinds of factors that we're trying to get into the growth formula, and hopefully over time those will advantage us. So that's the strategy at this point.
And the 126 FTES that was previously unfunded, what happened to that? In the tentative budget, we show 126 that were unfunded.
So the tentative budget was based upon the May revise, and there wasn't a growth formula that had been created by the Chancellor's Office yet. So what we've presented today is what is in the enacted budget that the governor signed in June that the legislature passed. So there are a lot of changes on the state budget between what was at our tentative, because that was based upon the May revise. With the way the state budget works, there's a lot of negotiations that go on between the Assembly and the Senate, and they make changes in order to compromise, to bring a budget to the governor that they believe that the governor will sign. So what this is what has been enacted by the governor, was approved by both the Senate and the Assembly, and this is the final growth formula that the Chancellor's Office has provided us.
So we have no unfunded FTES.
Correct.
And I mean, I think we're almost obliged, the way funding works, to seek as much growth as we can get, because that's how we get money, although we can't do it unrealistically.
Correct. So if we wanted to go down to having unfunded FTES, or if we wanted to make our target the 20,555 that you're suggesting, Trustee Zia, that means that we would lose $500,000 in revenue. So the deficit that we're presenting to you tonight would increase by $500,000 if we use that 20,555 FTES as a target.
Let's just be clear, I wasn't suggesting, I was asking to understand how this works.
Of course. Go ahead.
Okay, so the second bullet, there was a cost of living adjustment provided by the state of 1.02%. That was $61.1 million on a statewide basis. For Long Beach City College, that's about $1.1 million that we've built into our revenue budget. The Student Success and Support Program, we're calling the SSSP. It was formerly matriculation. There's $471.7 million on a statewide basis. We have not received our allocation yet So we don't know how much additional funds we will be getting. We hope to have that allocation in late September, early October, and if any adjustment is needed, we'll make it at that time. However, the Chancellor's Office did reduce the match requirement for SSSP. It used to be 2 to 1, and now it has been reduced to 1.3 to 1. There was $155 million provided for student equity. Again, we have not been given our allocation of these funds yet. It'll be late September, early October before we know the final amount of funding that we will get from these additional funds.
Vice President Gable, was there a reason why this declined $30 million versus the tentative budget? I believe we had forecasted or had $185 million for this line item.
Right. Well, as I mentioned, the tentative budget was based upon the May revise. There are compromises that occur at the state level, and so a lot of the line items that you see at the May revise do change when we get to the enacted final state budget. The rationale behind why it was reduced, I don't know. There was $10 million provided for Basic Skills Partnership Pilot Program. Again, this is going to be a competitive grant, so we don't know if we will receive any of this. We are hopeful that we will get some of it. $49.5 million was provided to increase.
Excuse me, Ms. Gable, what is a Basic Skills Partnership Pilot Program? What does that entail?
Well, it's a competitive grant that we would be applying for.
I got that part.
That
just the description.
It would help enhance things that colleges are doing to improve the basic skills of students or to move students quicker through basic skills courses.
The genesis for this line item was an effort by the Campaign for College Opportunity to work with the governor's office and the legislature to set aside money to seed programs that are improving basic skills and to pilot those programs. So districts can apply, colleges can apply for those funds based on showing that they have a promising practice that could be scaled over time throughout the state. And so that's what this money is for.
Okay, and where do we stand as far as a promising background or history as far as this grant goes?
Given that we spent a great deal of time helping craft this language, this should benefit Long Beach City College because we have a number of practices that are already called out in the partnership pilot. But we'll see. It's not a lot of money, so it will be very competitive, and we'll have to determine whether or not it makes sense for the college.
And the call for proposals hasn't even gone out yet, so. Okay, the next line item is the increase to the non-credit rate, the enhanced non-credit rate. And this was actually part of the 14-15 budget language. However, it's going into effect in 15-16. So that'll be an increase of about $290,000 for Long Beach. There was $266.7 million allotted for a base allocation increase. That's about a 4.65% increase to our apportionment, and it equates to about $4.8 million for Long Beach City College. $62.3 million was provided for full-time faculty hiring, and the concept behind this is that the districts would receive funding, and in return, if they are below their full-time faculty obligation or even at their full-time faculty obligation, they would have to hire additional full-time faculty with these funds. So the amount that has been allotted to Long Beach is $1.1 million, and it means that we would need to hire 10 full-time faculty for the fall of 2016 with this funding.
Vice President Gable, can you help me understand why this amount is significantly lower than the tentative budget? It's I think it was $75 million for the tentative budget, and
right.
Sorry.
So the tentative budget again was based upon the May revise. When the legislature enacted the final budget, they had reduced it to the $62.3 million. So that's what's provided on a statewide basis.
And what happened to the $48 million of career technical education fund or grant? I saw that disappear from tentative budget. Did they just redistribute that?
You know, there are a lot of compromises that occur within the legislature when the budget is going on. So that was one of the items that the community college system lost, basically. It was allocated to elsewhere. I don't know where, but it went somewhere else.
I think it's an important reminder that the tentative budget is based on the governor's May revise, not the legislature's. So the governor submits a budget proposal to the legislature, and the legislature puts together the budget bill. So the adopted budget is based on whatever compromises happen within the legislature, and then finally with what is approved by the governor. So there are many, many changes typically between May revise and adopted budget.
Yeah, and anecdotally, I have heard this story. I certainly can't confirm it, but it's my understanding that there was $75 million available for full-time faculty hiring. However, the faculty tried to cowboy on this and do it on their own, and as a result, the legislature reduced this from $75 million to $62.3 million, and that was a legislative decision. And I'm not privy to the details, but I've been told that story by a number of people, and that's how legislative decisions are made. Is that fair?
Any explanation is fair at this point.
Irma?
Further to it, perhaps, for clarification purposes, it might be helpful if we can explain that the first budget or the tentative budget is just a projection that the colleges or districts are given in order to begin to build their budget, and that it's not an actual projection, it's just a tentative, and that after the enacted budget, that provides us a better scenario in terms of how to build our budgets, and then after that, we will have even one more, which is the actual budget. With that, I think having that understanding might help, Trustee Sia, because the tentative budget that was presented back in January is not the actual budget, and a lot of things, as has been explained, a lot of things happen, and money is taken away or it's added somewhere else, and so this is why the changes occur.
I understand, Trustee Archuleta. It's not my first year going through this. I just want to understand the background and the details. So I appreciate you mentioning that, but it would be nice to get that up front, the background and the difference between the tentative and the adopted.
Well, it's just that sometimes we don't really know why the state takes away certain or moves monies from one fund to the next. So for us to ask, Ms. Gable to explain why the money's gone away, she's not there. She's not purview to the decisions that happen in Sacramento.
Okay, moving on.
All right. So there was $33.7 million provided to restore EOPS funding to the pre-recession levels. So we're approximating that will be about $446,000 for Long Beach City College. There was another $2.5 million provided for cost of living COLA adjustments for the categorical programs, which we're approximating will be about $35,000 for Long Beach City College.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
The EOPS money that's being restored, are any of the people who were laid off or reassigned, will then they be able to come back to their job in EOPS?
I don't know. I think a lot of the additional money is for EOPS book grants, which wouldn't apply to staffing levels.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. The next line item, or the third bullet on the screen there was $148 million that was provided for deferred maintenance and instructional equipment with no match requirement. So that is about $2.6 million for Long Beach City College. And we have decided through our Budget Advisory Committee to split that money equally between scheduled maintenance and instructional equipment. And just on a side note, for the scheduled maintenance piece, we will be doing some water conservation projects, since that was a new category allowed with the scheduled maintenance funds. So you will see that we will be converting the landscaping south of building BB and AA along PCH at the PCC campus to drought-tolerant landscaping and planting. We will also be addressing the landscaping along Orange Avenue at the PCC campus and potentially north of the II building along 20th Avenue for water conservation projects. And then here at the LAC campus, we are hoping to be able to convert buildings Z, O1, and O2 to reclaimed water. And if we can get that done, then the entire LAC campus will be on reclaimed water. The last item there is $38.7 million in Proposition 39, the energy efficiency funding. Long Beach City College is going to receive $583,855, and we are planning to do lighting retrofits in buildings T, HH, and O2 with those funds.
But may I ask another question?
Yes.
There's nothing there for solar power?
We don't have anything for solar power. It's such a small dollar amount. It's hard to do a solar project with that funding. The other reason is the state wants us to utilize these funds within 1 year. And so they want the project to start and finish within a year and to start garnering the utility savings from doing it. And so you can't really do that with solar.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, lastly, on the state budget overview, there was $94.5 million that was provided to eliminate the the cash deferrals that had been occurring. So as a result of that, we will again not have to issue any trans in the 15-16 year for short-term financing.
Very good.
There.
Excellent.
Yes. Yeah, that was excellent. Well, especially when we were up over $20 million in deferrals. This is huge for Long Beach City College.
Yeah.
There was $632 million provided to pay down previous mandated cost reimbursements, and that is allocated on an FTES basis. So Long Beach City College is receiving $11.3 million in one-time funding, and you will see a little bit later how we've detailed out those funds. And then another grant program, $60 million for Basic Skills and Student Outcomes Transformation Program. Again, we do not know how much we will be receiving, and hopefully we will get those allocations in late September or early October. So I'm not going to really cover these since you guys know what your board goals are. These are the goals that you guys adopted at the last meeting, but we did take these into consideration when we were providing any augmentations or any redirections of the budget. There's your first one, there's your second board goal, and your third and fourth board goal. So moving into the institutional priorities, again, this has not changed from the tentative budget. The institutional priority was developed by the College Planning Committee, and as we were building the budget, this was taken into consideration as well. So these next three slides will kind of show you some of the allocations that were made within the budget and how those allocations either meet a board goal and or an institutional priority. And I won't take the time to go through every single one of those. I'll just highlight, a few of them. We hired the 36 full-time faculty. We restored 51 classified positions. We offered a winter intersession, and we've increased our course offerings. We have also developed the LEAD Academy. We have several grants that we have actively sought out and received, as well as awards that we've sought out and received. And then here is the mandated cost allocations that were approved by the Budget Advisory Committee on how we're going to spend that $11.3 million. And so you see it covers various areas and planning and implementation things that we want to do, including instructional equipment, scheduled maintenance. There's, Title IX compliance in there, as well as website design and professional development, among other things. So moving into the Budget Advisory Committee budget assumption highlights. First and foremost, we kind of say that there will be budget redirections in response to the state's budget and the priorities established by the CPC. We've already seen our FTES target, that's 20,754. We did reduce the deficit factor that we built into our revenue to where now it is 0.5%. At the tentative budget, we had it at 1%. The deficit factors have been so volatile in the last several years. It really is hard to pinpoint, but we've gone from a high of 4.36, and then it'll come down to 0.45% when we get to the end of a fiscal year. And so we're hoping that the 0.5% deficit factor will help alleviate some of the swings that we see in the revenue that we report and that we receive. Again, some of the other highlights there, we have a total cost of ownership principle is put into place for anything coming online. We have the 5.5% minimum unrestricted reserve. Our institutional effectiveness fund balance goal was set at 15%, and that was done by the College Planning Committee. We have our load banking and vacation reserves of $2.7 million, and then we have our benefit cost changes, which you see are quite substantial. Our health and welfare cost increased 16.2%, or about $2.3 million. STRS increased 1.85%, or just over $1 million. Our PERS increased by 0.076%, about $25,000. And then our workers' compensation increased by 0.136%, or about $124,000.
Ms. Gable, I have a question on the institutional effectiveness reserves set at 15%. What was the basis for the 15%? Because I noticed it's over double what was set at the tentative budget, which was, my understanding was it was 6.25%.
No, the institutional effectiveness goal was set at 15% back in May. It was went through the Budget Advisory Committee, and then it went to the College Planning Committee. And the goal is that we will have reserves of 15%. I think what you may be referring to was at the tentative budget, we didn't have enough reserves to allocate 15% for that particular line item, and so it was less. But overall, the goal is to have reserves of 15%.
I didn't realize we didn't have enough at the tentative budget. And so this is arbitrarily set by the planning committee or college planning committee?
Not arbitrarily set. It's set through the planning process in coordination with the Chancellor's office, this is a relatively recent iteration of the statewide institutional effectiveness program, which is requiring districts to set institutional effectiveness goals. One of them is a fund balance goal. And we, working with the Chancellor's office and other districts and with our own planning process, identified 15 as a reasonable number based on other colleges and districts.
Do we anticipate significant higher increases in STRS and PERS in upcoming years like the city does?
Yes, we do, and I have a slide at the end of the presentation that'll cover that for you.
I apologize.
That's
Can
okay.
I just, because my apologies.
You don't read ahead.
Yeah, I did. That's how I knew it was sitting there. But, and this is not to imply anyone's lack of knowledge or not understanding about a budget, but very quickly, because some people may or may not understand when you see, and we talk in this language, BAC, BAC, budget assumptions, College Planning Council, but just real quickly, a lot of people don't understand how our budgets are put together and the role of the trustees in that. We are not the ones that are in the minutia of it all. So you may want to just very briefly BAC, Budget Advisory, CB, who are all these people that are coming up that are working through? I think that's a good thing just to publicly say very quickly so people don't have some assumption how these numbers are coming up, because there was something farther up that I started to stop, and then it was over someone, if you just read into that, on making the decision on splitting on maintenance versus purchase. And so some people could come back and say, well, who's this unknown entity? Well, there is a legitimate, and so you just want to touch on that, and my apologies to my colleagues if this is exceptionally just fundamental that everyone understands. I don't know what people do understand or don't understand, but since I've been doing this for 15 years professionally and elected, I sometimes want to stop and just have that question answered.